All right, so the last plugin that we're going to talk about for IDE is SonarLint. And as you can tell by the name, SonarLint is related to SonarQube, and we're going to talk about that a little more later. We'll touch base on it here as we start to get it installed. But I'm going to search for SonarLint, and I'm going to do the same thing I've done before, get it installed. The cool thing about SonarLint, as we'll see in a minute, is that you can actually connect this up. So if you have a SonarQube instance that is in your office or in your development environment, or if you're using the SonarCloud that we're going to talk about later in this course, you're actually going to be able to point your development environment to that server. So as you'll see, you can configure these custom quality profiles, so you could ignore some rules if you want to, or you can change severities of certain rules if you're not really worried about somebody using tabs versus spaces. You can knock that rule down, or you can kind of ignore that rule altogether, and then you can have your developers point to the server to get the rules that they need, and that way everybody's kind of working from the same thing. So the IDE itself, when you put the plugin in, it's got a set of rules that are kind of a standard default quality profile. And everybody can use that, or if you want to customize those rules, you can set it up on the server, you can point your IDE there, and then you have it. So before you ever have to run any kind of, before you run a Maven script to actually push the code out and do the analysis, or before you have people commit or do a build, they can run against the exact same rules that your automated build tool will run against. And that way you can catch these things before they ever push code into your repository at all. So we've got it installed. We're gonna go up. There's not really anything we're gonna do in terms of the settings at this point. We're gonna look at that later when we do SonarCloud. We're gonna go up to SonarLint, analyze files with SonarLint, and it's gonna come up with all this stuff. So let's take a look at these things. So first, it's telling us refactor the method to reduce the cognitive complexity. So it's telling us that our cyclomatic complexity, we have a whole bunch of if then else logic statements and branches and things like that. So it makes it really difficult to understand the code. So when I'm looking at this, I'm going, wait, greater than 0, less than 5, greater than 3, equal to 4. All right, what really matters is equal to 4. So this is just crappy code anyway. And I told you this was going to be crappy code, right? But it just means there are a lot of if, else, if, try, catch statements in here, a lot of paths through the code. And we need to do this better. You can see down here that it's telling us we need to merge these if statements down into something that is much more intelligible. It's picking up on the commented out block of code. I told you that one of these tools was going to yell at me about that, right? This one right here, change this so that it doesn't always evaluate to false. So I'm setting a variable to false, and I'm checking to see if it's true. So I need to be able to do something about that, right? And then it's going to take me through, hey, look, it really doesn't like system.out. It's going to say we want to use a logger for this. So we want to use something where we're not going to swallow the error and it's just going to disappear forever and we're never going to know that there's a problem. It's telling us that we want to catch an exception instead of a throwable. And it's telling us that we want to use a logger to catch this exception. And just like the other tools, when you look at find bugs, you look at check style, it's showing me exactly where the problem is. It's also showing me the rule that it's checking against. It's giving me a non-compliant code example, which is a whole lot like what I'm doing here. And then I've got a compliant solution down here saying, hey, if you're going to write code that's going to pass this rule, it's going to look a little bit like this. Doesn't necessarily have to be exactly like this, but it's going to be a little bit like this. Let's go in and clean some of this stuff up, right? So if I come in here and I clean this thing up, so I go, and again, this code is really, really pointless. So we're just going to make it a little less bad while also being pointless. Okay, so we're going to clean this one up right here. And that's going to take care of a whole bunch of these things. So you saw the cognitive complexity thing dropped off, and you saw the nested if statements thing that dropped off. All right, this one is a really easy thing for us to clean up. This one's really easy too. I don't need to do this, so I'm just going to eliminate it. That's gone. Boom. Now we got to go, all right, let's catch an exception instead of a throwable. I like to call the exception E, all right, and then E.print stack trace. Okay, and now it's saying use a logger for this. Replace this usage of system.out or system.error by a logger. That is just fine. Logger as in the class, not logger as in the beer, which I'm about ready to drink. I don't know if you are or not. If you're already drinking, that's okay too. I have no problem with that. Drinking and coding. Okay. Code quality class get named. And get us what we need there. Okay. All right. And if you wonder why I'm putting a period at the end of that sentence every time in Java docs, it's because checkstyle is going to yell at me if I don't. Right here, it is asking me, do I want to import this? Yes, I want to import this. There's another import I'm going to use here in a minute. So I'm just going to do util. I'm going to go ahead and throw it in there because IntelliJ will pull it in for me, but sometimes I like to just do it. You'll see this right here pop up too. You got an unused import in there. So it's not real crazy about this, and it's going to say you're not using this, so remove it. So as we work through this, it's gonna yell at us about a few things, but that's okay. All right, so up here, what I'm going to do is go logger.log. All right. Then I'm going to remove that. Okay. Now things are getting a lot cleaner, all right? Because now I'm using the import that I wasn't using. I'm using the variable here that I created that I wasn't using. I replaced that with a logger instead. So then I'm going to come down here and just do the exact same thing. All right. Okay, remove that. I'm going to do the same thing on these things right here, so bear with me. This is going to get real boring. That's the thing, it's exciting at first, and then it gets real boring. Sometimes you would rather things be boring than be hacking through a production problem at 3 o'clock in the morning when you could be sleeping instead. And I'm not doing the efficient thing here where I would actually copy and paste like a normal person. Okay, so this one's going to be severe. Something went completely haywire. Okay, and then we're going to do e.get stack trace right there. So we're going to log that. All right, cool. Now we're going to go back to SonarLint, analyze files, okay. And that one will drop off. You can see it's already grayed out. Control Shift S should get us that. All right. Just make sure we can build it again. Right. Oh, yeah. There we go. All right, cool. We can build it again. We can analyze SonarLint. No issues found in the current open file. So at this point, we started out. So let me show you what we started out with in terms of code, because it was really crazy. All right, just gonna drag this over here. We started out with some pretty gnarly code that's in here, right? We got stuff all in the wrong lines. The curly braces are all in the wrong lines. We're comparing using an equals operator on a string. We've got commented out code. We've got code that never gets executed. We've got stuff that's way too complicated for our puny human brains to comprehend. And now we've got all this nice, clean code. It's well documented. We don't really have any issues. We got a few, we still have a few of these things, these check style things that are hanging out around there, right? So, and even IntelliJ's internal code inspection is going, hey, yeah, this is always going to be false. So this is always going to be true. This is always going to be false. So it's still going to complain to us about that. Again, for the purposes of our demonstration here, it's not really about what the code does, but it's about working through the process of cleaning up the code, getting it nice and pretty and functional. We've also reduced it. At one point, we had about 50 lines. Now we're down to 43. And we've also made it more functional and robust because we've added our loggers in here. So we're able to make sure that if there is a problem in the process, we're going to see what that problem is, and we're going to be able to fix it. So that covers the IntelliJ plugins for find bugs, for check style, for SonarLint. We are going to do the Eclipse ones in another lesson here in a little bit. And then we're going to get into SonarCloud, and we're going to wire that up, and then we're going to be able to point our development environment to our custom quality profile in SonarCloud. So it'll be really fun. And so hope you enjoyed this particular lesson, and get ready for the next one.